was Jacob so strong that he was able to hold the angel? Or was the angel wrestling Jacob not to defeat him, but to tire him out in order to help him get control of his spirit and the things that he was doing in his life and give him a better path? I was like, well, that's kind of a legit question that I've never kind of heard it put that way. And I was like, and I started to think about it, and I'm like, well, that's possible, right? That it was not to wrestle Jacob into submission, because I feel like the angel could have done that at any given time. He could have just went like, you're done. But he continued to allow Jacob to not overpower him so much, but to, I guess the only word I could use would be to compete in the grappling. And
to engage.
Yeah, to continue to engage in the grappling. And I just thought about that, and I was like, it ties into what we're going to talk about today, because the way I think about this is, okay, so you hear a lot of people say, well, God's not real, and these are all the things that happened to me personally that make me believe that, this person was taken and this thing happened and I couldn't control. And does that person not recognize that some of those instances might be God attempting to subdue the spirit and to slow you down and to get you engaged in what his plan is for you, right? Because a lot of times we get so distracted by the thing that we want, that we begin to do and engage in things, and when it goes sideways, we don't realize that it's naturally going to go sideways because it's not God's plan. If it's not God's plan, it's usually never going to work out. So, I mean, it's just a thought, right? Does that make sense when I say it?
That makes sense.
I know it's not. It's kind of an overarching thing that you can't really like put one pinpoint on. But I thought it was a thought, right? Like it made sense when he said that.
Well, I mean, because you look at this. This comes from most of this standpoint. Like, I've had this happen, and this is taken away, and this happened, and
and this person didn't do what I wanted them to do,
and it's like a selective, view. It's a very, very narrow view.
It's a very limited view.
Yeah,
yeah.
But you don't realize there's all this other stuff around it that you can't see, or you don't realize, or you totally have let that overwhelm your sense of what's good out of it or whatever. And I mean, that's probably the most common attitude, I suppose.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people stop believing that God is possible because they think that their impossible dream, because it's not God's plan, is not being carried out.
Well, it's just like this hubris, dude.
Yeah.
That your idea of what you want is more important than his idea.
Well, and on top of that, the dangerous thought process of, well, I want it, so God must want it for me.
Well, yeah. And he want me to be happy?
Yeah.
This would make me happy?
Yeah.
No,
that's not true at all.
Not necessarily.
No. Like, but the only reason I say that is I think about all the things that I've wrestled through in my life, and I looked back on when I was listening to this guy, and I started to kind of file through and think, okay, well, how would this apply to me? And I kept thinking about places where I got off the rails. And I was like, yeah, I was fighting for something I wanted, but I wasn't necessarily listening for what God wanted for me.
Yeah.
And it was a fail. It was a repeated fail. I don't know if part of it is that we don't a lot of people create so much noise in their life that they don't hear him anymore.
Well, yeah, that's
and by
true.
hear him, I don't mean like he's like on the phone, like, yo, dude.
No, I know what you mean. I know what
I'm saying. Like I think there's a natural equilibrium between us and God, and how he communicates with us. And I think we create so much static noise and obstruction in our life that we don't hear him anymore.
Yeah. I mean, not just hear him or whatever, but we kind of narrow our idea of what God is, and we put him in a box.
Yeah.
And we limit what he is and how he sees things, and therefore we can't get through our own stubborn dumbasses to get farther than that.
And then we start to ask questions, and instead of waiting for the answer to question, we begin to manufacture God's answers. Like, a common one as of late is, and this is spoken a lot in like the transgender community is, well, does God make mistakes? Well, no, I'm not a mistake. Well, yeah, that's partially true. You're not a mistake, but you're obfuscating what God wants for you with what you want for yourself, and what sin is doing to you internally.
That argument holds up if you have a perfect world.
Yeah, and you don't.
Where everything is perfect.
Yeah.
And that's not what happened.
Nope.
So it doesn't. We wrecked that boat long ago.
Yeah, we killed that. We killed that mammal many years ago.
Oh yeah,
and cooked him and ate him.
Well, we did wear him.
We did for a little while. We did. Oh, and by the way, mentioning wear, I would like everybody to recognize that Reggie has a fantastic shirt on today. It's his 4th of July 250th anniversary. I'm naming your shirt. None of that's on there. Bicentennial Muscle Man shirt. Merca. And I'm wearing my One Nation Under God, because that's what we are. T-shirt in honor of our 250th anniversary of our lovely country, America.
On that point, you still hear this stuff all the time, how, the U.S. wasn't founded on Christian, you hear it all the time. And it's like they must not have ever been to D.C. and seen monuments or anything, because it's like every freaking monument up there has something about in God we trust, or there's scripture there, or there's whatever, everywhere. And I mean, not that that's everything there is, but clearly the state constitutions at the time and the founding of some of these universities, I mean, there's just all kinds of things that were like, come on.
Well, even if you look at the state's foundings within themselves, the states were founded with the ability to have a dominant religious entity in each one of them, and they were pretty much all founded on some form of Christianity.
This is the whole point of this whole show today. We'll knock down this. Could we? It's like this. Would the modern world? How do I put this? Would the modern world's moral order exist if Christianity never had?
Let me give you the easy answer to that one. No.
Okay. Now let's start here, because I think this is where you got to look at. Let's start with Roman culture.
Yes.
Pre-Christian, everything. Okay. It was a cultural thing for a Roman dad to say, "Oh, here's my baby, whatever." You know what? I don't really, I'm not jiving with this. It's, I didn't want a girl, or his hair color's wrong or something.
He's kind of a wuss, even though he's
put
like
him out back.
14 days old.
And they would literally just abandon the baby out in the wilderness, right?
Yeah.
And that was like an okay thing.
Mm-hmm. That was
totally an okay thing.
That was pretty much well thought of.
It's like, oh, okay.
Where's your baby? I put it in the woods.
The Spartans are another example that actually did this. The movie 300 does theoretically, have his, thematic moment about it, but it was true that they would, any kind of, if they didn't like something or whatever, they're cast away.
The wolves in the winter cold was a ritual by the Spartans. When you got to a certain age, they would send their 10, 11-year-old kid out in the woods in the winter cold, and hey, if you can survive and not die, you can be a Spartan. And a lot of those kids did not survive and died. So in today's world, I think that is a by far
reflex for that is, oh, that's monstrous. That's atrocious. How could anybody ever do that? Right?
Which I'm sorry, just binds me up. And here's why.
Why?
You have a knee-jerk reaction to someone killing a child, yet you want to make laws and enact laws that allow people to kill children before they ever have a chance to live.
The vast majority of that question boils down to people not believing that the entity that exists in the womb is a child, is a human.
Yeah.
They refuse to acknowledge the humanity of that thing.
Yeah.
That's where that most of them, not all of them, some of them that they'll still recognize it and call it this, and they might as well be a Roman.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's the thing. You have this modern, mostly agreed upon morality structure that we have that is based on the necessary substrate of Christianity.
Well, I mean, let me give you a modern example. Let's take Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson as an example.
Okay.
Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson in no way have adopted Christianity as a lifestyle, but they both have openly said that the moral framework of Christianity has been the basis of good faith action in our society since the beginning. So when you have two men who are quote unquote intellectuals who will not own the existence of God, yet will own the framework of Christianity. I mean, to break it down and make it even easier, Joe Rogan said, I'd hang out with Jesus. He seemed like a good dude, right? Seemed like he had everything. What he preached seemed like it would work, right? So yes, that's a...
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just look at this real quick, right? So we don't just have Rome, because Rome, you had slavery, you know, and this is what was real. I mean, like the slavery at that time, you still had some indentured slavery going on, but like they really had, like, they would buy a person and they could do whatever they wanted with that person. It did not matter. Not
to mention the fact that they had what is called paterfamilias, which is power of life or death over everybody in the household, slaves, family, wife, kids.
And then of course you had all this, you know, the gladiator stuff and everything else, which
is for entertainment. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that was there. In other pre-Christian societies where you had like the Aztecs, where you had just large scale ritual sacrifice.
Yep.
The pretty much child sacrifice is the biggest one I can think of, really. Yeah. Carthaginian. Did I say that right?
Carthaginian, yeah.
Carthaginian.
Yes.
Carthaginian. What a weird word.
That is an odd word.
Anyway, but all this child, and that was accepted by the culture. Not just, it wasn't like this was like a, you know, small thing either. You're talking thousands and thousands. So, you know, sorry. By the way, me and Brian are both experiencing some
deeply allergenic issues.
Yeah. I'm day 3 of prednisone right now.
He's on the roids
to try to get this stuff to like drip and drain and go away. It's that's where I'm at. Yeah. So apologies for the
coughing and wheezing
coughing and all that nonsense today.
Yeah. You know, and here's, you know, think about societies that were untouched by Christianity, the remote tribes, the you know, honor and vengeance, our economies, blood feuds, infanticide, all those things were common and they were accepted. They weren't thought of as, you know, oh no, it was all right. Like, let's roll. Right.
Well, so, and I want to say this, they had a code of conduct, right? I mean, like all these cultures had some sort of value system there for ethics and morality type of stuff. But Genghis
Khan had a code of conduct.
Sure he did. But they really didn't establish like a universal idea of dignity towards a person's innate value or anything like this. So it didn't matter, like, if you agreed that, okay, well, that a person that looks like this or has this thing or whatever, they are very much less than any, you know, and not considered the same as someone else and doesn't inherit the same kind of statues or, you know, things. So that's what you had in these pretty much pre-Christian type of things or societies, right? So in that what's cool in what I found was like some real observational experiments with the pre-societies before and after. Okay. And that's where we have these like tribes and like there's one in Ecuador. I don't
now. How do you pronounce this?
Yeah. Okay.
Waorani.
Yeah. So pre-contact, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what they said. Over 60% of deaths were homicides.
So 60% of deaths were murders.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Among the highest rates in
freaking
anthropology.
High. That's super freaking high.
Oh yeah, it's great.
That's a lot.
A lot of rating and all this stuff. And it ceased over the years after a peaceful contact with the westernized world in 1958. This is all documented, by the way.
Yeah.
We can put it in the description or something. But there was some other things that happened, settlement consolidation. There was broader Western contact, not just missionaries and stuff, but there in other words, there was Western influence coming in here, right? Darwin himself, right? The Darwin in the South Seas, he credited Christianity with the change he saw in Tahiti and New Zealand. Okay. Yeah. The South Seas, I think that's where he wrote that at. So yeah, Fiji had some cannibalism and widow strangling, by the way, which is
and cannibalism.
Yeah, widow
strangling.
Widow strangling is a thing, right?
Yeah, like if we heard that on the news today, we'd be like, "What?"
Yeah, what?
But apparently, widow strangling was an actual thing.
I mean, that's how far removed we are from that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
But Darwin said in The Voyage of the Beagle, the march of improvement consequent on the introduction of Christianity throughout the South Sea probably stands by itself in the records of history. That's Charles Darwin in The Voyage of the Beagle. Okay.
Fair enough.
So here's the actual substrate this stuff sits on. And this is where, and we've said this before, the Imago Dei.
Mm-hmm.
Equal dignity. Genesis 1:27. Humanity is grounded in we are made in God's image. That's a universal worth right off the bat. Okay. There's no distinction between, that value of a slave versus a free man versus a male versus a female versus a ruler versus a blacksmith versus a baker. I mean, it doesn't matter. There's a unifying universal worth and dignity that Christianity is placed on that. That's where we get this from. Okay. So,
well, here's a legitimate question.
Okay.
Speaking of this, I hear a lot of people who like to say things like, and I seem to hear a lot of this coming from the more liberal churches are, well, it's okay for a woman to have an abortion, because, we don't want to control the body. We don't want to. Well, here's my question. Christ was in the womb at one point, right? So let's say she didn't have the moral profundity to say, I need to keep this child. Angel came to me and she decided to go and have an abortion. Where would your religion be then? Right? We talk about the absence of Christ in the general sense, right? Like you liberal churches, you scared the living crap out of me because you back into a view that if that view were held by Christ or by God or by anybody else who is in the hierarchy of our religion, there would be no Christ.
Yes.
Does that make, I mean, that to me is the scariest part about a lot of these Western churches that have latched onto this liberal view, is you've latched onto a view of Christianity that would be absent of the very thing that died to save us. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Well, when you distort the image of God image bearer language, that's what you get. That's it.
That's what happens. Yeah.
So what happened was the Christian influence was the one that said, exposure to the, an infanticide. I can't speak today. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And take care of the orphans and the widows and the sick, right? I mean, it's the
sanctity of the vulnerable, right?
That's exactly what it is.
Like Christian prohibition of exposure and infanticide, it's reverses. We Christians were the ones that came out and said, protect the innocent, protect the ill, protect your elders, protect the old. But a lot of people think, well, they've lived their life. It's not a protection in the sense of their age. It's a protection in the sense also of wisdom, right? Like you protect everything is secular in God's world, right? I mean, we are born new generations. Those generations are raised by older generations. The wisdom of the Bible and Christ and living that life is passed on. I'm sure that when that sanctity of the vulnerable came into play, that was part of the thought process, right? Like you can't have future generations if you're killing the middle generations or the old generation.
But not
right.
I think it was deeper than that though, because it goes beyond just wisdom. It goes to, it doesn't matter. They're at the lowest point of who they are. They're still an image bearer of God.
Yeah, they're still a child of God.
It doesn't matter what stage of life they're in or what deformities or diseases or whatever. At the end of the day, that's the basis for every human individual. Yeah. And that carries through. That's it. So it's very much like, that's why this, the assisted stuff and everything else, it just doesn't jive with me. And I don't like it because you are taking steps for yourself to alleviate a image bearer, which to me, that is kind of a bad thing. Come on now. So look, the other thing that, this whole Christian Substrate did was it put some definitions on what marriage was supposed to be at an individual level. So like it led to a lot of like the cousin marrying kind of stuff and the polygamy, clan-based kinship type of things. Yes. And
arranged marriage and a lot of those things.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah. And charity to non-kin. So here's the other thing. Care for the stranger as a duty. This is what this came from that. It's not just the strong surviving and thriving on their own. It's the strong taking care of the weak. It's the strong picking up an orphan and taking care of it. That
putting your brother above yourself.
Yes.
Or sister for that matter.
The spiritual and temporal authority split between render unto Caesar. I mean, this is what it did. This limited government, in the church and state separation, which I don't want to get into that too deep, but it render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God. I mean, that's what in Matthew we're talking about. Even Nietzsche, by the way, who was not Christian.
Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yeah. He agreed that Christianity revalued all values.
I'm sorry. Why does every accent I do sound like an Irishman?
I don't know. But he called it the transvaluation, right?
Yeah.
He just didn't like what happened after that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Julian, the apostate, letter to our
Are you having trouble talking today?
Arsicurious or whatever it is.
Says the Smirgus.
You know what? I'm not even going to read it. I'm just not.
You should just read it. You should read it.
No.
Hey, man, at least you wore the shirt.
I know, dude.
I know. Rock and roll with the shirt.
But remove that substrate, dude. This is where it all hinges. Remove that substrate, and what runs right downstream?
Chaos If you remove the substrate of Christ, you've left the world to man and its chaos.
Well, we'll work our way. And we're not going to go too deep in here, but what happens is if you remove this Christian substrate that's there, the founding of the United States of America, and we talked about this with all the monuments and stuff, and you can debate this or whatever if you want, but you're wrong.
Not that he has a personal stake in it or anything.
But we have specific language endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights.
Yes.
So this is pre-political, granted by God, not the state, right?
Yes.
This is really that is a deist foundation, right?
Yes.
So there's just that, and then you have these "in God we trust" everywhere.
Yes.
Okay. And in the Locke wrote about this in the second treatise. And obviously, though, in Aquinas' Natural Law, if you want to get the lineage of that idea, you can find it there. But that world lived in the the Christendom's legal order. The university was a medieval Christian invention.
Yep.
The investiture controversy. So all these things, by the way, sources in the description, but the investiture controversy forcing the church-state distinction into Western law was by Burmans in the Papal Revolution.
Yeah.
Okay. And the layer underneath that,
the post-Roman collapse.
yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Christianity caused the fall, but
Church as an institution.
it survived it and carried the literacy, the law, and the text across
the gap. It's, and then you got to look at, we're back to, Imago Dei and Return to Caesar and the two threads that are already laid. Islam, a parallel monotheism that grew in the same Near Eastern soil in dialogue with Judaism and Christianity. Defensible claim is shaped by no Christianity, no Islam, counterpoint the Islamic Golden Age, preserved the Greek corpus, and the Latin West later recovered. There's this.
But the idea basically, there's too much there to talk about Islam.
There's a ton.
But let me just say that the idea though is that Imago Dei that carries the rights and the dignity of the individual into the U.S. and have founding documents and how our country was founded.
Which is why we said earlier, people who don't think that our country was founded in Christian values are wrong.
Well, all modern society that's a whole part of it. This whole substrate of dignity and value and everything came from this idea, So think about like if you go back to, not just the United States, but then take it back to Europe.
Yes. So
what happened in Europe until the Christians came around? Same thing. I guess the inspiration for like the Magna Carta and stuff. Where'd that come from?
Yep.
What happened? Why was there? How is the spread of even literacy without Christendom? I think that's arguable. I don't have sources on that, by the way. That's just me.
Well, and let me be clear too. When we talk about this, I'm not denying. I get a lot of blowback when I talk to people about Christian history and things like that. I get a lot of look at all the things that like the Catholics and everybody did in the name of God. I'm not denying that any of that happened. I'm not denying that the Inquisition happened. I'm not denying that people have started wars in the name of God. But you can corrupt anything. And that is what we are by our nature will do, is corrupt even the purest thing. So by saying all these things and by saying that this fiber of Christianity has been in our society since day one, and that it permeates all of us and foundationally we stand on it, that's not denying that there have been things that have happened in history that God didn't do, man did in the name of God, that don't shine a less than pleasant light on what some people's view of God might be. There's no denying that, right? Like Reggie and I are not, we're not blind to the things that have happened in our history, but we're also smart enough to know the difference between what God commands and has in his laws and what he tells us to do and what morons do when they get too much power. So, I'm sorry, that's just about the only way I knew how to put it, right?
Yeah. I mean, but the process goes where we're not inventing these ideas of rights and dignity and stuff. In other words, in 1776.
Yeah.
We're inheriting those. Okay. You're going back to the 1500s, like I said, and you're not inventing those. You're inheriting those. So, the legal system, the infanticide, infanticide, Boy, I tell you what, man, I'm struggling today.
It's okay. But hey, man, it's okay. We both kind of been down in the dumps and sick and not feeling great this week. So I'm going to give us a little grace.
But it is this Imago Dei, image of God.
Yep.
Render unto Caesar, all these things. These things came from there, that if they were not, would you have Europe developing the way it did? Would you have tribes being influenced and not? And I mean, would you have these Ecuadorian tribes that sit there and are 60% murder rate, and then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but over time,
as missionaries came and went.
Yeah, missionaries and the Western influence came and went. That ceases to be the thing. I mean, this is the thing. It's not. I'm not saying that. Christianity by itself did these things, but without it, where does any of these values and stuff stand?
Yeah.
That's the problem that we have if you just say, well, we're better off without it. But how? How would you have this substrate of dignity and rights and stuff without having it in there? That's the key point here. And there's several different things. Again, they're observational. They're written. You can go look at the original study that was done on these tribes and stuff, post and pre and post, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not Christianity is the only thing, but the Western influence that does have Christianity in there is also part of that.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
and I think if someone was to ask me, Brian, when are you the most sure that God exists? It's when I'm sacrificing. Because it's when I'm most feeling my nature as a man. We are built to be sacrificial. So a lot of people want to line up and go, well, you want to be high and mighty and you want to tell me how I should live. And you want, no. We don't want to tell you anything because we are not the makers of the law. Our job is to live the example, which is to be sacrificial, which is, if I'm helping a neighbor or I'm taking time out to help someone who's desperately in need of something, or even if it's just a moment to have a conversation with somebody. True faith, true Christianity, you will see it. And if you really want to experience it, practice selflessness, right? If you really want to experience what it is to be at the foot of God and at the behest of Christ, practice selflessness. And I think that's the problem with our culture right now, because the modern person, again, lives on the moral capital while denying the source. You want to have a moral high ground, but you don't want to recognize that there's a source that moral high ground was built upon.
Yeah, I mean, we treat secular common sense as not having traceable roots when it does.
Yeah, It's in everything you, even if it's non-Christian literature, there is a inset of rules and regulations that people live by to have moral capital that's in those things, right? Like you can't not have, okay, so let's say, all right, let's pull the rug out and say, all right, no moral foundation at all. Whatever you feel is proper is proper. I don't want to live in that world.
Well, that's the whole point, though. We've seen what that looks like.
Yeah, we've seen it for the last 5 years, what it looks like 6 years. This absence of moral.
Well, not even that, though.
Grounding.
Like you go to an even further extreme. I mean, these cultures that didn't have that influence, what did they look like?
They were wild. They were murderous. They were.
I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
You
know, you're throwing babies out for exposure to, if you don't like them, you're murdering your neighbor if they, look at you funny.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens when you don't have when you stick with the human-centered secularist, there is no moral code or value endowed in us or whatever, or if that's where you're at.
Yeah. You're in the wild west of death and immoral behavior at that point. Like, but I mean, just take a look around you now. This person that another socialist nut job in New York who got past the primary and is now running for a seat in New York, who says that murder's not wrong. And I'm like, do you hear yourself when you speak? Like, do you know that the things that you say are completely and utterly insane and that you shouldn't say them? Or are you just out here trying to get people's attention? Because to me, when I hear something like that, not only do I think common sense wise, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but it hits at my moral center. Murder is wrong. You don't take a life. And here's the thing that really bugs me. If you take someone who knew nothing about faith, right? Let's say they didn't believe in any God. They just were tripping through the world, right? And I sat down with the 10 Commandments and I said, hey, this is just a list of rules. Can you tell me any one of these that are bad or that you don't think would be good? And you read off the list of 10 Commandments. They're not going to argue with you that all those things are probably good ideas. So it's not about this moral law that we're trying to oppress on you. There is a natural core of you that is built by God that these laws speak to, that these commandments speak to, not because God wants to control you. He's just far wiser and knows the construct of our society has to have a moral fabric or it will literally tear itself apart. And you look, let's take a quick look. Let's look at Russia right now. Russia is literally imploding because they have a leader who's a psychopath and has no moral core or center. So whoever or how many have to die for him to achieve the level of power he wants, he does not care. That is a great example of what we're talking about. When you take moral order out, when there's an absence of a moral fabric, again, thou shalt not kill. And let's be clear, the war in Russia and Ukraine is not a war of necessity. It's a war of power. And this man is sacrificing lives to gain power. That is immoral. That is an immoral thing to do.
Again, no value of a human life.
Yeah.
That's not equal value.
Yeah. Or the only value of human life is in himself of his own.
For his own gain.
Yeah. So
it's similar to like when you distort it. Here, I want to make this statement. A lot of people have an idea of a God, and that's what they think it is, but they don't have the same idea, the same God or whatever. And so what you end up with is a distorted view of some moral standard that doesn't equate. I mean, you could look at Muhammad's entire life when he was supposedly, doing his thing, and he was just a pedophile,
psychopath,
warlord, psychopath.
Yeah.
I mean, what's funny is about the Quran, it starts off kind of sort of peaceful, but it ends off, it just gets worse as it goes on.
Yeah, it just goes.
So,
berserk.
I mean, but that's what it is. I mean, then you have think of the cultures that have sprung from there and what we've seen, compared to like the Christian based one or pseudo or should be let me say this, should be distinguished by being Christian, Europe and US or whatever. And how did they treat their people? How did they value the different people who had different ideas? How were they looked at? Was that image bearer idea applied across the board? No. Which is why Hamas still says, they still want to have all the Jews be destroyed completely. Still their view. I mean, so come on. Anyway, this is not a full-fledged deep dive into like all this stuff. There's a lot of, what I didn't want to do was have like a bunch of branches that run off and we go down all these rabbit holes because frankly, they're all over the place. But I did want to kind of just lay a simple foundation for a thought that there is a substrate that is based on the Christian ideals that has led to our civilization's moral compass. And without it, you can trace it back, what would happen if that wasn't there.
Yeah. Total chaos.
Yeah. I mean, and you can see this pre and post. That's what I wanted to point out. And you can go to the links because you're not going to believe me anyway. You need to go listen. You go to the source.
You need to do the research.
So,
okay. So Reggie.
Oh Lord.
It's our 4th of July spectacular.
Uh-huh.
So I think we need to end this on a positive note.
Uh-huh. I'm scared.
So what are your favorite things about America?
My favorite things?
What are your favorite things about America?
I mean, I do think it's the liberty being what it is in America has to be the number one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because without that, you have nothing else. I'm free to like defend myself. I'm free to like work what I want to work and marry who I want to marry and raise my kids the way I want to raise them. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I can worship my beliefs and follow my beliefs and all that kind of stuff. Those are that liberty standpoint is really it. Yeah, liberty has to be number one thing about the United States. The second one probably being that we have this immense amount of cultures that have come to the U.S. Mm-hmm. And so you have a perspective that's kind of broad about all kinds of things, and it helps refine your own.
Yeah.
So I think without, those are my two things I would say: liberty and the cultural salad we live in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I only have one, and it's a word that we use a whole lot, and it's a word that I think has lost meaning with some of the things that are going on.
Crotch punch.
No, not crotch punch. I love those words, and I love the memes that we shoot back and forth when we talk about those words. But freedom. I look at everywhere else in the world, even our British counterparts whose freedom is in peril right now because they're arresting people for Facebook posts and jailing them. And regardless of who you are in this country, you have an inalienable right to freedom that no one can take from you unless you commit a crime that would obligate you to have your freedom taken away. I have the freedom to raise my children to be good men. I have the freedom to speak my mind without repercussion or punishment.
You just copied off of me, bro.
No, but what I'm talking about is
copy, bro.
What I'm talking about is an enviable freedom for the rest of the world. Whether you can say what you want about America, but most people don't hate America, and I believe this. I mean, deep in my soul, I believe this. You don't hate us because you think we're some kind of superpower that's imposing force. You hate us because you see in us the freedom that you wish you had. And it's envy.
Okay. But on that note, that the institutional capture there that we talked about for 10 episodes a long time ago is alive and well in the other countries. Okay. What did we see during the World Cup, Brian?
We saw people come to our country and discover what freedom was.
And completely go, holy cow.
What a great country.
We have completely been lied to about what this country is and who these people are and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many freaking things have, I don't know how many. It's so many.
By the way, man, Buc-ee's really scored from this one because everybody loves Buc-ee's.
Oh, bro. Buc-ee's is lit, dude.
I know, dude.
Lit.
Everybody from every country loves Buc-ee's.
It doesn't matter who you are.
Doesn't matter. Not at all.
Yeah, you're a Buc-ee's fan, apparently.
But you're right. Like these people, and I think, you're right. They've been lied to. We were considered warlords and oppressors, and then they came here and were like, cheeseburgers.
It's seriously though. Like, I've seen so many just pop up and just be like, I can't believe,
dude, the amount of Facebook reels that have popped up from people going into like Walmart and just being in awe of what they can get at a Walmart.
We're just talking about how, like, I remember the one cat was, I think he was in an Uber and he was sitting there. I don't have the link or anything, but he was talking about how he can't believe how nice everybody was.
Yeah.
Like he thought everybody was going to be, because he was a foreigner and it would, all this stuff. Dude. And it turns out he was like, these are the nicest people. Yeah. This is crazy. I didn't, why is everybody, it was just, I think at this point, when we talk about just the U.S. is such an anomaly for this existence. Dude.
We're a bastion of freedom. It's what we are.
And you think about it like, and I don't remember. Okay, let me just state this right off the bat. I don't know the sourcing of this. I just briefly saw this, but I'll just say that. Think about like of all the humans that have existed, okay, how many of them had freedom of religion?
Not many.
Right. How many of them have freedom of speech?
Not many.
Freedom of anything. Movement. The Bill of Rights, basically, right?
Not many.
How many have all those? We are like less than probably 1% of the whole. If you talk about all of humans in all of history who have this privilege of being here with all these rights and freedoms that almost the entirety of human existence cannot have, right? Yeah. We are all privileged in that living. That's what I mean. That's what this country does, and it should continue to do, and it should stop this. And until we get a grasp on the institutional capture of things, it's just going to keep rolling.
Yeah.
Now I don't know where that stops, to be honest, because that's a bigger story than what I can.
Well, and I'll tell you that it's ramping back up again. With this whole midterm election thing happening, and the war in Iran, and all the things that are happening, the institutional capture is on fire right now.
Propaganda rolling.
Propaganda is just pumping, and my encouragement would be, with those freedoms and liberties that you have, you also have the freedom and the liberty to make up your own mind and to do the research and to know the truth. And the truth is out there, and it's literally a click of your phone. Like, it's not, you don't have to go to the library and get up to Dewey Decimal, and you can actually do the research and find out the truth. And that's the thing I would encourage out of everything that Reggie and I talked about here at the end, the freedom, the liberty, all the things. Use those things as they're meant to be used. Use those freedoms to educate yourself
with discernment.
Well, but education to me includes discernment, right? Like,
yeah, but you got to say it nowadays.
Institutional capture is an education, right? Like, here's the thing I would tell people: if you're in a university and that university only wants you to learn one way, that is not education. That's institutional capture.
Yes.
If you're in a university and they are ramming an agenda down your throat, and every time you question that agenda, you are chastised or redirected back to the thing they're trying to teach you, that is not education. That's institutional capture. And you need to question that. As a smart, intelligent, living, sentient being, you need to go, wait a minute. There are two sides to every single story. Why will you only tell me one? And usually, and I find that 99 out of 100 times, that's because whatever they're feeding you is not true, and they don't want you to know that. They don't want you to question it. They just want you to just drink the yummy poison Kool-Aid.
Anyway, it's 250th. Happy America.
Happy America.
Happy America.
Happy America. I'm Brian.
I'm Reggie.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.